the biggest thing in promoting something that's premium, and that's potentially a whole other discussion, but your positioning, and that is the wording that you're using to present your product that brings out that really big value that you give to the customer that they don't get from anything else. So making sure that when they come to your website or your store, or when you're greeting them and telling them, here's this product, here's what it does, what you're talking about is that biggest standout thing that no other competitor could claim to have.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Marketing with In-Depth Podcast, where I'm your host, Nathan Webster, and I'm excited to chop it up with you today. Today, I got a return expert marketing, I'm going to say genius, if that's okay with you, Laurier. Is that cool?
I'll let you say it. I sure wouldn't say it myself, but I think I'm a far cry from that. But to hear nice words like that from N-Dub makes my day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when it comes to all the newsletters that ever since you came onto the show from the first time, I've been reading them. And man, you said that they were shorter than Seth's Godin's. They're not always shorter than Seth's.
I really try to keep them down, right? There's always those other little ideas that it's just, oh man, I can't exclude that. I can't cut that out. But yeah, Seth sometimes goes to just a few sentences, and I've never done that, I don't think. Didn't mean to mislead you.
It's okay. No, it's good. It's very value rich, and I think it's important because I think from our experiences, we all have our own marketing experience, and why we also love helping the clients the way we do. And so for those that are tuned in, we're going to talk about how to promote premium pricing in the way that's going to work best for you. But at the end of the day, we know we all want to, or going to, I should say, buy something, but how it's priced depends whether or not if we can afford to buy it. So I'm looking forward to going into this topic with you, Laurier. So before we get into that, let me just say thank you for all my worldwide listeners. If this is your first time tuning in, thank you for joining. I hope you like it. If you do, please subscribe, please comment, please rate, please review, and please share. And so with that, I would love to hear your feedback. So make sure if you have anything that's burning, you didn't get a chance to say something, just hit me up at info@nwebsterllc.com. All right, so let's get into the show. Laurier, how you been, first of all, my man?
I've been great. It's been a kind of a whirlwind summer and into the fall. So this is always busy time for us. If I weren't run off my feet right now, I'd be a little worried. So it's good. This is why I do what I do, is to keep on hustling as long as I can.
Yeah, when we talked the last time, I remember I just got back from my golf trip, was in like at the kind of mid-July, and we were still in July. And it's funny, I had kind of back-to-back guests. You were the first one that were from Canada. And that was crazy to say, almost 6 months ago. So I know we've had some time to get to know each other, especially the content that we put out. And so I wanted to have you back on the show because I believe you provide something very valuable to the audience that I think sometimes we just I would just say, just scratch the surface. And so when you mentioned the premium pricing on top of all your AI stuff, I would love I don't know, can we merge that? Because we don't script this. So we're kind of talking about what we can talk about for the short amount of time that we have.
For sure. Just let me know where you want to start, and we'll cram in whatever we can. AI is such a huge topic right now that I'm happy to dig into that. I had this email that I put out just today that was on pricing, and that blows up my inbox every time I talk about that. So I realized that's something everybody really cares about. Like, it doesn't matter what you're selling, you're trying to get the most you can for it. And your customer, I said to you off air before we started recording, is, we're all cheapskates. You or I am the richest guy in town is. And the reason for that is we have limited resources and we all want a great deal. We want good value. And it's up to the person selling the thing to establish that value. You've got to establish why, what it is you offer that's different and better than whoever else has some kind of alternative or doing nothing. And then you've got to justify that compared to something, because value is always compared to what? the only way that we decide something is a good deal is well, then what's a bad deal? If something is a bad deal, it's because I can get a better deal. So what are you giving to me, compared to the other choices that I've got today? And, one of them is always keep on doing what I was doing before. Unless I broke my thing that you sell a replacement for, I guess I could go get the same kind of thing, or you're telling me yours is better and it's not going to break, but it costs 4 times as much. So, maybe I'd rather buy another one and another one of what I had. So it's always this compared to what are you good value. And to get to the point of premium, that's always such an important thing that everybody needs to, if you're selling something online and you're paying for visits and acquiring new customers is always expensive. If you're using a platform, then what you're buying is the audience of that platform. And that platform, you think, wow, I'm paying like $18 a click through LinkedIn for this. And that's really expensive. But these platforms have spent hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars building their audience. And you're trying to buy a chunk of that audience for a few bucks. So, I don't have a huge amount of empathy for Mark Zuckerberg and what his pain today, but I recognize that there's a reason why I'm buying these clicks from him is because I don't have a lot of other choices, and compared to whatever alternatives, he's giving me better filtering of interests of the people I'm looking for. He's giving me a broader base and kind of a more scalable way of selling. So compared to that, his expensive clicks may be good value. It's really hard if I'm selling something for $50 and I'm paying $18 for a click and I do everything else. And, this guy who will never see the product is making half the money without the costs, right? But he's paid his costs. Those places do have their costs.
Oh, man, you mentioned a couple of things at the end, from opportunity cost to perceive versus actual value. I think that's one of the hardest things some people, especially in very beginning startup founders, if you will, they say, I believe it's this amount, but I'm like, well, you're going to pay that amount because you're the one whose baby it is. It's special to you, but it may not be that special. And matter of fact, it isn't very special to a lot of people, which is why you don't have sales. When it comes to premium pricing, Laurier, when you mentioned about we're cheapskates, have you done any research behind why we're so cheap?
I guess a ton of research, and that's sort of what I do all the time when I'm trying to understand who will buy a product, what's going to get them to kind of upgrade the price they're going to pay coming into it. Because if you're selling something that's premium, you're asking more than what others are asking. You're trying to say this thing is worth more. And I think, as I said, we're all cheapskates just because when we go into any kind of a transaction, we go into that thinking, how little can I pay for this? If I'm going to buy a car, I'm not saying how much can I go and pay for this. I'm saying, okay, this is the range. How can I end up at the bottom end of this, getting as much of the stuff I need as possible, but coming home being able to say, hey, yeah, I only paid this much. So we're always wanting to say, I only paid this much, unless, those rare occasions where you bought that new iPhone or Louis Vuitton bag or whatever, you still might want to tell your friends, I only paid this much, to show how smart and sophisticated a buyer you are. But, you're kind of, just by virtue of buying that premium thing, you've associated extra value with it. I've got a client that they sell, if there's any Stratocaster players in the audience, they sell a part for a Stratocaster guitar that eliminates the buzz, and you can look it up. It's called Buzzkill with 4 Z's. And it's a premium part. It costs a couple $100, which doesn't seem like a lot, but the other solutions out there that don't do as good of a job might be $30 or $50. And so working with this client to achieve premium pricing for them, to get people to pay more for it, has been, it's been a psychological challenge, understanding what it is that people, who are making that, hey, well, I would buy that for $60. What makes them pay more? And one of the easiest things that I suggested, as we're trying to build the premium value, is give the best service on earth. And that's something any business can do. The bar is low for service in general. People are just amazed when they receive phenomenal service, and they go and talk about it. And, and with that as a practice for this client, every email that comes in, every request gets stellar customer service, and it shows up in, I wouldn't say every review, but it's the most recurring theme in the reviews for this product. And you associate that with premium. It's if someone takes your call and you have a complaint and you're going to work with them to make them happy, whether it means sending the product back or, in the case of this product, they've had people send the entire guitar to them and they'll replace components on it because it's got rusted, corroded stuff inside of there, send it back, beautiful. The customer can't believe it. But that's stellar service. It's saying, I am not just trying to get through this call from a customer that's not happy. We're going to get to the bottom of this, and we're going to, whatever it takes to make this customer happy, we're going to do it. That costs you more than you expected when you're doing that type of thing. But when those things start to show up and surface in reviews, the good news is if you got something decent, you're not doing that all the time. When you do those things for people, they recognize they are more to you than the value of the product and then that transaction. And it doesn't matter what you're selling. There's always that, someone's coming into your shop to buy a sandwich. Show them that you are worth way more to them than that sandwich and the money you're making on that thing. You're a valued customer. And if there's something that you see that they're struggling with at their table with their kid, and you're going to help them with that because they're a human being, they're going to come back for their next lunch at your place. It's just, this place gives me phenomenal service. And that's the biggest thing I think people don't recognize when they're trying to build a business that can command premium pricing is the customer service, the way you treat people. Sometimes, even when you are selling direct to consumer and you don't have that much contact with the customers, when you do, give them phenomenal service. When you send out automated email messages to them, tell them who you are, tell them your founder story and what gave you, why you created this product to help people just like them, and to reply to the email anytime, no matter what. And you want to hear from them. And most people won't, but when they do, the people who do are going to be surprised as heck that you respond, for one thing, because they,
Absolutely.
prove to them that they are meaningful to you. And then you have those conversations and you start to get these great reviews. And the company I was telling you about has nothing but 5-star reviews. They don't have any, and that surprises me because, it's a simple product, but it requires a complicated install with soldering and some other work. And not everybody's had an easy time with that. Some people have these really weird configurations, but when you reach out, you get someone who's going to be saying, let me walk you through this. Let's do a FaceTime call and we're going to get this right. The example with sending the whole guitar in, that's not every business does that kind of thing. But when you do, I think it also gives you a different level of pride in the business that you're running, to be able to say, if that guy needs a boost for his car, I'm going to go out there and do that for him because, that's not my business, but that's how much I care about the people around me in my world. And, it's you kind of create this business karma. So that's not all there is to premium pricing. There's so many other things about the way you build the product or you build whatever you're giving, you're putting that extra meat in the sandwich, or you're, because that's what people are going to remember when they buy it. That makes, in that world, premium is, do you want extra of anything? We're going to do that for you. It's like, how much extra do you want? And you're not just looking at your margins, but you're looking at what's going to satisfy and make that person really delighted, because that's the road to premium. It's always about giving that extra, what bigger thing than what people expected.
Yeah, so you said a lot with that, and I know I was trying to frame it because there's a lot to unpack here, and so it comes back to your book. You said I need that, and so when it comes to someone saying I need that for a product and premium pricing, for those that are business owners and having trouble with their pricing, what are some tips that you can give them, or a process that has worked for you in the past, or that works for you now even with your current client, besides customer service?
With my clients, and everybody's interested in being at that premium place, just because that's where the margin comes in, right? That if you're just selling at the same place as all the commodity sellers out there, you're just another player in the market, and you're probably struggling to make ends meet. It's when you get into that premium, whether you're buying, the car that's the upsell model, that's the slightly nicer one, that's where the dealership is making all the money. That the value-based cars are, that are just not really they bring them customers, but not profit. So premium is the way to profits. And I think, anybody who is having any kind of struggles kind of looks at their business and wonders, well, what would it take? What do I have to do with this very often not premium thing to command premium pricing? Do I need to put it in a nicer box? Do I need to change it and actually have a better model that is built with better materials? And sometimes that's the case, is selling a better model with better materials. In the case of the guitar product I was telling you about, is instead of creating a better model because it was already quite premium, they've introduced, or they're about to introduce by the time your listeners hear this, a lower priced model. So now compared to what is, well, you can get this one that it doesn't have the cloth pushback wires and it's not hand built. It's, they actually 3D print the lower end model instead of hand assembling them. But, that gives the customer a choice. Do you want this premium build that custom guitar makers are now putting into their artist series guitars? That's, and that's really what's happening with this product. Or do you want something that is just more affordable and then you can buy that? So very often it's, giving other choices that make the thing that you do best premium, but also servicing those people that you want to have as customers at a lower price point. And very often the ones who come in thinking they want the lower price point, it's like when you go to the car dealership, it's like you came in for that base model pricing. You drove out with a lot more than that. And it was because you wanted all those other things. Very often people do want your premium pricing, but they don't want it to be their only option. They start looking back at the other stuff, what they were using before, very, compared to that. So there's all of these different steps.
You're saying, so just to jump in, because you mentioned a couple of things, and the first thing I heard was packaging. So if you have a tangible product, one thing you mentioned was packaging. The second thing was, doesn't matter if it's a product or a service. Then you went into talking about providing a lower option. So now you're stratifying and giving the options like a good, better, best. And that was an option that you say can work very well.
There's a reason it's so effective in software pricing, right? It allows you to see the different options that you can have. People almost always buy the middle option, then that's the way that the pricing strategy typically works. If you're selling a SaaS product, is that you want most of your customers to fall into that middle. The highest end option usually gives you the highest margins, and the bottom option you kind of don't want anybody to take. You kind of gear that might be your freemium, and it's acceptable to some users, but the majority of your customers want to go with that middle option. And it's always because in pricing psychology, we always need the basis for comparison. And if we don't give our customers a basis for comparison, they will compare us to what they think is the comparable. They will look at your competitors and compare you to that.
So this is good. So I want to make sure that our listeners are walking in with some good takeaways. How do they assess whether or not it's priced well, and how do they promote something that's premium?
The biggest thing in promoting something that's premium, and that's potentially a whole other discussion, but your positioning, and that is the wording that you're using to present your product that brings out that really big value that you give to the customer that they don't get from anything else. So making sure that when they come to your website or your store, or when you're greeting them and telling them, here's this product, here's what it does, what you're talking about is that biggest standout thing that no other competitor could claim to have. And that's, hey, we put more meat in the sandwich than anybody else in town. If that's a claim that, if it's true, nobody else is going to beat. And so those are the types of things that you need to think about, is not just the pain point that you solve, the need in the case of my book that you answer to, but really, how do you do that better than any other choice? Because if you're doing that, and that's now a basis for charging more, because these other things, they do similar stuff for you, but only this one delivers. This is the only one that fully removes the buzz from your Stratocaster guitar without hurting the tone. So that's why you buy this particular product. there always has to be, and without, in that case, without replacing your pickups, there's always just, what are those things that make it clearly, obviously, if I'm just going to read one sentence on your website and go away and think about it, what am I going to be thinking about that's going to make me come back and say, oh yeah, but only that guy gives me 30% more meat in my sandwich.
Is that how they would like self-assess to determine whether or not they can do premium pricing
Absolutely.
or offers?
Yeah, and I always tell people that is that if any other customer could put that on the front of their website or make that their opening, their elevator pitch to people walking by them at the farmer's market, whatever else they're doing, if anybody else can say exactly what they're saying and steal it from them, then that's not their positioning. You are probably selling something that's entirely a Me Too product. And I would say if that's where you are, because you might be, then how can you up your game? What can you do that's going to make it that much more special? I'd say there's always something that you can do. You can put it in a nicer box, and you can say, we put this in this box that you can reuse, and it's especially sized for storing, whatever little trinkets, fish hooks or something like that. If it's fishing related, there's always something that you can offer that people can distinguish you by, even if it's just an upgrade to a repetitive way that you tend to do something. Make it better so that you can get that premium. You have to earn the premium pricing. I think that's, if I haven't said that clearly, that's really, really important. Is you don't just, words don't get you to premium. You earn it, but then you have to communicate how you earn it, or people won't appreciate it. Your customer isn't going to put the energy in to learning your product well enough to know why it's unique from everybody else's.
So the major takeaway is, if you haven't earned the premium pricing, don't offer it just yet.
And how are you going to earn it, right? Because I do think that's something everybody should be thinking about. I can't think of a business where they shouldn't, and I'm sure there are examples where you're just all about the volume, and that you're happy to just be competing and getting by at whatever level you are. But there's always a way that you or I or anybody selling anything can up our game. And that's, I think, if whoever you are as a listener, I challenge you, send me an email if you don't think that's possible within what you're selling, and challenge me to help you with that, because I think there's always a way that you can, without giving away the farm. It's always, premium pricing is for a reason. Premium pricing is so that you can get premium margins. So how can you earn that? And you might not even get there today. It might take a little while before you get to the point that you're getting those great reviews and people are saying, oh yeah, but look, everybody likes this thing. And everybody says, they give you so much love and care when you buy this. That is a big part of it. It's really, so is your salesperson really, really doing a great job? Do you have the right person in that seat that's out there communicating? Are they able to, when they talk to people, are they putting forward that positioning that you talked about? Because very often I find, especially with businesses that have sales teams, we work so hard on the positioning, and only to discover that the sales teams are selling the way they always did. They've got their habits, they're creatures of habit. They tend to, and salespeople are among the worst for that. They just, they each say, it's my style. And it's like, no, it's not your style. This is our positioning. It's
right.
That could be a big challenge. I don't know how many of your listeners have sales teams, but I think it's important that as you grow those, that and if you have them, to make sure that they're all singing from that same song sheet, and the word is getting out about that core positioning, and they're demonstrating properly and giving the service that where you set the bar all the way around.
No, that's good. I think that's important, because when it comes to the marketing side, you putting all that messaging, the positioning, everything that you're saying, and then when it hits the sales teams, if you are more than a one-person show, if they're not converting, as in closing the deal, then there's a disconnect that we got to fix the problem, and that can take a lot of wind out of the sale. So that's good. I'm glad you said that. But another thing, and the but is not like to discard anything that has been said. The but is, you're saying that this is a multi-level pronged process.
It is, but it starts, it always starts at that founder level, or, CMO level, or, director of marketing, whoever is trying to solve this problem, and to get to the higher level to that premium level. And from there, it's making sure that those decisions, those things that make you premium, those markers of being premium, are consistent throughout the brand. And that's probably, I'm glad you asked that, because that consistency and continuity, if you truly are premium, it has to be throughout. There can't be gaps. There can't be nicks in that armor. It has to be completely flawless. And if it's not, you work on getting out those flaws. You just cannot sell things that are not as good as they possibly can be and call that premium and command premium pricing. Then you're trying to mask something and masquerade as premium when you truly aren't. So that's, I guess, the other side of that is make sure that not just what you're selling, but everybody who's on board doing it, everybody has to be on that same page of recognizing we're selling a premium product here. And for that reason, nobody's left behind. No customer goes away unsatisfied. Here is our premium product strategy. And here's how we're different now that we recognize that. Because sometimes, if you're just discovering that you want to be at that premium level, that means you really should evaluate everything you're doing, at every level, from build quality to customer support, how your chatbot, if you have one, talks to individual people. You might need to reprogram the language that it's using, to the email messages that you're sending out, to how you answer the phone, to every single level is this that premium place that we're trying to be in. And it's a fun exercise though, because at every level you're making something better. It's very rewarding, because even if you don't see the dollar return right away, you do start to see people are appreciating this. We're having better interactions. People value us more. Everybody wants to be valued more.
Yeah, and this is a lot of value that you're giving it. It's a meaty one too. So apologize if we didn't parse it out and give you steps by steps, but maybe you just need to re-listen to it, and it wouldn't be a bad thing for you to listen to it. And maybe listen to it with either a friend, if it's just a person, or a one person show that you have, if you're a solopreneur, or if you have a team. I think this would be really good. Before we close out though, because I do want, that in itself was a lot, but what also is a lot is you have a book called I Need That. Can you talk to the listeners about the book? And I want to learn more about it too.
For sure. And this book here, it came out about a year ago. It's called I Need That. And it's about creating and marketing products that people are compelled to buy. That's the subtitle of it. And it really is about the stuff that we're talking about, is validating your product, finding out if people, before you start selling it, if people are going to pay you enough that you can be profitable on it, and then understanding how it is that your customers are going to come to appreciate it. So it's getting into their heads. I've got, a very simplified version of the psychology that happens in buyers' minds. But my job in writing this, that I self-assigned, was that I need people who are creating something, introducing a product, to have no excuse to make the mistakes that I keep on seeing out there, where people have a product that's not properly validated, that they don't understand how to price it right, that they don't command the pricing that they should, or just that they're not creating that feeling of need in customers' minds, where you have something and because as you said, we all know that our baby's beautiful, but why doesn't the rest of the world recognize that? And sometimes it's because you have to see it through their eyes. You have to, work on your positioning so that people understand why you're the only one for them. Why they don't just need something, they need that.
That's awesome, Laurier. I appreciate you coming back on the show. And for those that didn't get the first show, to get your information, just tell the folks where the best place that they can reach you at.
You bet. My website, lmandin.com, is where you can buy the book or sign up to my emails. And as I said, if you want to ask me for help with what you're working on with those challenges, just hit reply to one of my emails. I always respond, and you'll probably be surprised how fast. And if it's a day like this where I have one that's got a lot of responses, it might not be super fast, because I got a whole bunch to answer today on the one about pricing that went out. But do hit me with your stuff, hit me with your challenges, and I'd love to be helpful to people. And if you have a business that you're looking to market that markets products specifically, my business Graphos product, we help people take innovative physical products to market in both consumer and B2B worlds. So at graphosproduct.com is the other website. Come check it out if you have something that you're trying to take to market and it's innovative and you want to crack the premium world, or you just want to take it to market right.
Awesome. lmandin.com. I have it right here, and I have Graphos as well for the link, and I'll make sure to put that in the show notes in the description for those that to follow along with you if they have questions. And if you are on social media, I know that you have X, LinkedIn, and Blue Sky here at the bottom.
You bet.
All right. Awesome. Laurier, man, I appreciate you coming back on the show and dropping those diamonds, my man.
Oh, what a joy. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Y'all heard it first here on Let's Talk Marketing with In-Depth Podcast. You know, we love talking about marketing, and I know sometimes we get a little carried away with it, but that's just know that's a good thing, because we love what we do, and we know that the experiences that we got has made a difference, and we want to make that difference in you. So if you need help with your premium pricing, get in contact with Laurier. All the information will be in the show notes. Don't be scared now. Go ahead and make it happen, because you don't have to do this by yourself. So until next time, we wish you nothing but the best. Y'all dream big and Godspeed. We're out.